Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up at the next hour, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates Global Investors Summit 2023 at Dehradun in Uttarakhand, launches the House of Himalayas brand of local products. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates the first Indian Art, Architecture and Design Biennale 2023 at Red Fort in New Delhi. India's central bank RBI keeps policy rates unchanged at 6.5%. RBI governor says real GDP growth projected at 7%. India's parliament expels opposition lawmaker Mahua Moitra after a panel finds a former investment banker guilty of accepting gifts and illegal gratification from a business person to further his interest. It's official. President Vladimir Putin of Russia says he will stand for re-election in March 2024. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi remains the most popular world leader with a 76% approval rating according to Morning Consult. India is all set to become the third largest economy, and it will happen in my third term, declared the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi while inaugurating the Uttarakhand Global Investors Summit. PM Modi launched the House of Himalayas brand of local products as well. DD India's Vishal Baristo reports from Dehradun.
The Indian state of Uttarakhand is holding a two-day Global Investors Summit. Inaugurating the summit, the Indian Prime Minister said that the mission of his government is to provide global branding for the village products. The House of Himalayas is an umbrella that would provide branding and marketing of the local products at the world stage.
साथियों, मैं आज उत्तराखंड सरकार को हाउस ऑफ हिमालय ब्रांड लॉन्च करने के लिए बहुत-बहुत बधाई देता हूं। ये उत्तराखंड के लोकल उत्पादों को विदेशी बाजारों में स्थापित करने के लिए बहुत अभिनव प्रयास है। ये हमारी वोकल फॉर लोकल और लोकल फॉर ग्लोबल की अवधारणा को और मजबूत करता है।
The Indian Prime Minister appealed to the billionaires of the country not to move abroad, but turn to this Himalayan state for destination weddings.
हमारे यहाँ माना जाता है, कहा जाता है, जो शादी होती है ना, वो जोड़े ईश्वर बनाता है। ईश्वर तय करता है जोड़ा। मैं समझ नहीं पा रहा हूँ, जोड़े जब ईश्वर बना रहा है, तो जोड़ा अपने जीवन की यात्रा उस ईश्वर के चरणों में आने के बजाय विदेश में जाकर के क्यों करता है?
Indian big brands like Adani, Jindal, Patanjali and TVS Group assured their commitment for investment in this Himalayan state in the field of energy, infrastructure, tourism and health.
After the pandemic, the world is looking at India with a lot of hope, said the Indian Prime Minister by inaugurating the Uttarakhand Global Investors Meet, which has a theme, Peace to Prosperity. Prime Minister Modi asked the entrepreneurs to develop a supply chain so that India is not dependent on any other country. With cameraman Alok Gupta in Dehradun, this is Vishal Baristo for DD India.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the first edition of the Biennale 2023 in New Delhi on Friday. The Biennale will showcase art, architecture and design marvels of India. The 7-day-long exhibition will hold panel discussions and talks. Debyendu Mondal reports.
On Friday, the first ever edition of India's Biennale 2023 was inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Biennale 2023 is a confluence of art, architecture and design. The Biennale is being hosted at the iconic Red Fort, which will showcase the rich history of India's art, architecture and design. It will also showcase some of the architectural marvels of India.
जैसे भारत के इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ से पूरे विश्व की प्रगति जुड़ी है, जैसे आत्मनिर्भर भारत के हमारे विजन में पूरे विश्व के लिए नए अवसर जुड़े हैं, वैसे ही आर्ट और आर्किटेक्चर जैसे क्षेत्रों में भी भारत के पुनरोदय से, भारत के सांस्कृतिक उत्थान से पूरे विश्व के हित जुड़े हैं.
This edition of the Biennale is based on 7 themes depicting the rich cultural and architectural heritage of India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also launched 7 books based on the 7 themes of the Biennale. The Prime Minister also launched a postal stamp commemorating the first edition of the Biennale India. The 7 themes of exhibition include themes like Doors of India, Gardens of India, Temples of India, Architectural Wonders of Independent India, Indigenous Designs and Women in Architecture.
ये सेंटर भारत की यूनिक और रेयर क्राफ्ट्स को, दुर्लभ कलाओं को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए मंच देगा. ये कारीगरों और डिजाइनर्स को साथ लाने, मार्केट से इसे उन्हें इनोवेशन करने में मदद करेगा. इससे कारीगरों को डिजाइन डेवलपमेंट की भी जानकारी मिलेगी और वो डिजिटल मार्केटिंग में भी पारंगत होंगे.
Not just this, the exhibitions will be accompanied by interactive installations both in physical and digital forms for an immersive experience. It will also see artists from across the country joining in to take part in panel discussions. The event, being hosted by the Ministry of Culture, will be in full swing till 15th of December this year.
As Prime Minister Narendra Modi today invited the entire country to come here and witness the marvelous art and architecture and design that has been on display at Red Fort for the next 115 days at the first edition of the Biennale 2023. This is perhaps a confluence of the ancient and modern art, architecture and design, and it will also give space to many budding artists and artisans from across the country to showcase their artwork. With camera person Ramakant Sharma, this is Dibyendu Model for DD India from New Delhi.
Now, according to the latest survey of global approval ratings by the Morning Consult, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has again emerged as the most popular global world leader, with a solid approval rating of 76%, the highest in the world. PM Modi has been consistently topping the list in the last few years. Mexico's President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador secured second position with 66% ratings, and Switzerland's President Alain Berset holds third rank with 58%. And under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership, India continues to strengthen its prominence as a global power. Leaders around the world have repeatedly acknowledged India's growing leadership on strategic issues. Next report tells you more.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi can't be intimidated. That is what Russian President Vladimir Putin believes. Putin once again lauded the Prime Minister of India, saying that he cannot be intimidated or forced to take decisions contrary to national interests.
First of all, I want to say that relations between Russia and India are steadily developing in all directions, and the main guarantee is the policy of the Prime Minister Modi. I can't imagine that Modi can be intimidated, threatened, or forced in favor of taking any action or decision against the national interest of India, Indian people. And there is such pressure, I know. By the way, we never even talk about it with him. I just look at what's going on from the outside. And sometimes, to be honest, I am even surprised by his tough stance on the protection of the national interests of the Indian people.
Even before this, the Russian president had praised Indian leadership. Russia commended India's G20 presidency for its extremely productive work with good results achieved during the New Delhi summit in September.
Prime Minister Modi is the boss.
This is not for the first time Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi received a warm welcome. In fact, wherever he goes, it's all praise for him. Even United States praised India and said Washington will continue to foster partnership with India.
And we do appreciate the partnership that we have with India and other countries in the Indo-Pacific region when it comes to preserving individual nations' sovereignty.
During the meeting of Quad leaders in Tokyo this year, US President Joe Biden praised the popularity of Prime Minister Modi and said that he should get PM Modi's autograph. Joe Biden said, and I quote, "You are causing me a real problem. Next month we have a dinner for you in Washington. Everyone in the whole country wants to come. I have run out of tickets. You think I'm kidding? Ask my team. I'm getting phone calls from people I have never heard before. Everyone from movie star to relatives. You are too popular. I should take your autograph." In June this year, the United States hosted Prime Minister Modi on a state visit. The White House also organized a state dinner in the honor of PM Modi. It was a historic moment when Prime Minister Narendra Modi led 177 countries in performing yoga at the United Nations headquarters in New York on International Yoga Day on June 21 this year. In an unusual gesture, Papua New Guinea Prime Minister James Marape welcomed Prime Minister Modi by touching his feet. India hosted the leaders of the world's most powerful countries during the G20 summit in New Delhi. A major development during this year's G20 summit was the inclusion of the African Union as a member of the multilateral group, which Prime Minister Modi had strongly advocated. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been momentous in representing India's cultural heritage, economic power, and growing influence on the world stage. Abhishek Bose for DD India.
And going back to the top story, the Uttarakhand Global Investors Summit. Joining me is Dr. Charan Singh. Dr. Singh is an economist and the CEO of eGroup. Dr. Singh, welcome to DD India News Hub. Now, before we delve into the specifics of the summit and the macroeconomic issues, let me begin by asking you, Dr. Singh, if you could, help our viewers understand some fundamental issues here. Would a state such as Uttarakhand have special investment needs given its geography, topography, and weather?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the Prime Minister spent a good amount of time in explaining that because, yes, there's a Char Dham Yatra which can be there around it. But given the situation that is there in Uttarakhand, it's all green, there's lots of culture, there is nature. And I think given this richness that it has, the Prime Minister has rightly said that we can bring in tourism of a very unique quality. You could have the heritage, you have the Char Dham, you could bring in the nature, all very green, and the local culture that is so rich. So certainly the state of Uttarakhand is special. And I thought he also made a very special statement today. I was very impressed when he said, "Pahad ki jawani aur pahad ka pani rukte nahi, aur pahad ko fayda nahi dete hain." But I felt that he made a point that he is trying to change and he's going to see that the youth of this hilly state and the water of the hilly state works for the betterment of the hilly state. I thought that was very impressive,
Right.
what he said. And the other thing, of course, when it is so beautiful a state and so much of richness it has, and therefore he said that there's going to be a rail line, there's going to be a helipad and heli services up there. So all this would need investment and infrastructure.
Absolutely.
And I think he's doing it very right. If the Swiss Alps can develop so well, why not Uttarakhand?
So which brings me to my next question to you. Again, a basic fundamental question, Dr. Singh. What types of industry would do well in Uttarakhand, or what types of investments might Uttarakhand want? You refer to tourism. Is there scope for, say, energy, infrastructure, health, and so on?
Absolutely, again. Yes, very true. Please also remember he spoke about the local artisans, and he was speaking and giving example of the earthen pots and earthen vessels, which can do very well. And he spoke about the Himalaya House brand, which will take care of the local products there and make it dear to the rest of the world. And he mentioned that in rest of the world, things made out of hand, they play a very important role and they help in a big way and they sell at very high prices. One of the things that he mentioned, and I thought that was very encouraging, was that, look, when we talk of protein-rich diet. India itself has so many lentils, and we import so much worth of lentils from outside. He said India has so much of lentils, so much of millets, and we can all use it within the country. And I myself think that small agro-processing investment, small MSMEs, if they're able to tap the local product and they're able to use it and produce it in beautiful envelopes with little legends written on top of it, the way he was mentioning, that these are little envelopes on it is written it's protein rich, and the Indians start eating it. And then when you work in a place like Dehradun, it's so rich, the herbs are there, and there are natural things there, natural springs up there. I think this local work can be really used. Local product can be used. Local produce in terms of small products.
Indeed.
They can help to market and become really good exportable items. That's what the world looks for, and that's what. And moreover, I would like to mention one point. The global view is that organic food is always healthy. And I think if you are talking of organic food, the Himalaya brand would probably be the most organic food.
Absolutely.
Because in the hilly areas, yet not being exploited by fertilizers. So I think that is important. So in a nutshell, I would like to say while tourism is important, which he spoke, and he also spoke about theme-based tourism, which I really like the idea. When you talk of a theme-based tourism, you are basically thinking in terms of heritage also. There are temples, and there are temples of different religions up there. You could also be thinking in terms of nature, and he spoke about water sports. All that he's mentioning, I think, is very interesting. And then he summed it up by saying, why can't it become a destination wedding place? I thought he's trying to develop the whole of Uttarakhand, and he's trying to give it an impetus by looking at various aspects. So that would need some more infrastructure to be built if it has to become a destination wedding spot.
Indeed. Dr. Singh, let us now talk a bit, if you will, about Uttarakhand from a local perspective. The locals would be wondering, what's in it for me? Now, in terms of jobs, for instance, or skilling the young population, the young working population, is there scope for doing more? Or think this will have spin-offs, going forward?
Absolutely. Again, now look, the Prime Minister always keeps thinking, I've seen it with his vast experience in Gujarat as a CM and now for 10 years as a PM. I think he's always thinking in terms of how to help the poor, how to help the farmer, how to help the downtrodden, and how to help the women. I think this is the way he thinks, and this is the way he makes his policies.
Right.
And he also was mentioning today that, I'm making policies very transparently. It's for the people to take benefit and reap results out of it. So now, one more thing which he mentioned, and that will put the puzzle together. He said that, look, we always have been talking about aspirational districts. I'm thinking of aspirational blocks. And he said for a long time, India thought that the villages on the borders need to be not to be really worked upon because they could be risky. Whereas I'm saying no, work on the villages on the border, on the outskirts, because they could also have lots of potential. Now, keeping all these things together, you can immediately imagine when he speaks about tourism or local industry or MSMEs or local products, what he's talking about, the Himalaya brand. The point then is that it has repercussions, and it has forward-backward linkages. If you are going to be having tourism, minimum investment is required for an individual, but then you can become tour guides, you will have local, you can provide local transport, you can have local hospitality, local hotels can be done, and all this then plays a role in creating employment and not a substantial expenditure as far as the individual is concerned. Once the state has laid down the infrastructure, and once the airport has been brought in, which he was mentioning, and the rail links have been brought in and the helipads are done, and he was saying that the state government, and I think he's going to help in setting up a complete network of helipads in the state. So connectivity becomes very, very important, something which he stressed. So with this, employment opportunities would happen very fast. And when I told you that he thinks in terms of a poor or downtrodden or weak or a farmer, he was speaking that he still has a dream of making 2 lakh women Lakhpati, 2 crore women Lakhpati. Right. So then he says he's going to give them means and opportunities to develop. So that means the the development through the Himalaya brand model is percolating down into the people, be
Right.
it youth, be it farmers, and be it women. So obviously for the local people, there's lots of opportunities through each of the things, through tourism, also through products that they will make and
Right.
export, and the brand that they will create.
And finally, Dr. Singh, we've spoken about Uttarakhand state, we've spoken about what's in it for the locals. Let's spare a thought also for the people who are willing to, or who might be willing to invest in that state. The investors summit was about global investors. So I have to ask you this, in terms of, you refer to policy, in terms of policy framework, support or incentives, because investors like predictability. Can we expect, or can they expect, policy frameworks to be very robust going forward in terms of supporting their endeavors and investments?
Yeah, I would like to mention 3-4 aspects.
Sure.
Here. The first one is the whole country is now having a network of infrastructure laid out. You have seen the roads, the airports, and the Prime Minister spoke about Hawai Chappal to Hawai Jahaz.
Right.
So aspirations are rising. On one hand, the infrastructure has been laid out. On the other, people have started looking that there are opportunities for them, and therefore aspirations are rising across, and everybody wants to achieve more and more, and everybody has a feeling I can do it. Now, for doing it, then one always worries and wonders whether the policy will be stable.
Right.
The results that have just come out in the 3 states, the thumping majority of the ruling party, clearly shows that people are really looking forward to a stable government,
Right.
a government which delivers, a government which answers their aspirations. So the government is there is stability, and of course, in
Right.
Uttarakhand, you have the same party in power, which is at the center. So certainly the double engine, which he generally mentions, is showing results. I also have a feeling that the amount of confidence that people have started having in policies, that they are stable and they are here to stay, whatever be the political cycle the country has, the
Right.
election mode, whatever said and done. But one thing is emerging very clearly, that the positivity which is pervading all over the country, the business opportunities that are emerging with the infrastructure which is laid down, the thought process that is emerging
Right.
with state-specific policies
Indeed.
and state-specific products, that clearly shows that there is stability, and therefore the investors are always scared of uncertainty. India as a whole has shown fiscal
Right.
and monetary policy which is very stable. India as a whole has shown that the rupee is pretty stable.
Indeed.
And inflation is reasonably low. On one hand, the economic fundamentals are strong.
Right.
It is the fastest growing economy in the world today at 7.6%, much above the projected
Right.
growth. Not only India, IMF World Bank is saying it. Over and above it, there is a political stability into the country, which is also very, very strong. And therefore, I
Right.
think the global investors would have total confidence in patronizing the growth pattern,
Right.
which is being visualized for the state.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Dr. Charan Singh, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts and insights with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India's central bank, the Reserve Bank of India, keeps key rates unchanged. The Israeli military claims that 92 of its troops have been killed in Gaza since ground operations against Hamas began on 20th October. And President Vladimir Putin of Russia says he will run for president again in the March 2024 election.
What are you watching, Dad? Don't you often say, think before investing in the stock market? So I'm trying to gain some knowledge. From whom? That's this stocks expert. Makes great educational videos, gives good investment tips too.
Dad, don't rely on such videos. Do your own research or contact a SEBI-registered investment advisor. In the name of education, some influencers often misguide investors. You'll have to bear the losses.
Do you know? there's an investor protection fund for investors, IPF, but if your trade isn't executed on the exchange or if it's some guaranteed return scheme, then even IPF will not be able to help you.
And what if your broker becomes a defaulter? Then?
In that case, IPF can provide you with compensation.
Where did you learn this?
NSE's website.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. India's central bank, the Reserve Bank of India, announced its bi-monthly monetary policy today, keeping key rates unchanged on expected lines. Now, this is the fifth meeting in which the central bank maintained the repo rate unchanged at 6.5%.
Giving no surprises, the Reserve Bank of India today maintained status quo for the fifth consecutive time. RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das said MPC decided unanimously to keep the policy repo rate unchanged at 6.5%. Consequently, the standing deposit facility rate remains at 6.25% and the marginal standing facility rate and the bank rate at 6.75%. The MPC also decided by a majority of 5 out of 6 members to remain focused on withdrawal of accommodation to ensure that inflation progressively aligns to the target while supporting the growth.
The Monetary Policy Committee decided unanimously to keep the policy repo rate unchanged at 6.5%. Consequently, the standing deposit facility rate remains at 6.25% and the marginal standing facility, that is MSF rate, and the bank rate at 6.75%.
On the growth projections, Governor said India's GDP growth remains resilient and robust as reflected in the projection of 7% growth in the current year.
Real GDP growth for the current year, that is 2023-24, is projected at 7%. I repeat, real GDP growth is projected at 7% for the current year, with the third quarter at 6.5% and the fourth quarter at 6%.
On the inflation front, Governor said significant progress in bringing down inflation has been made. The steady decline in core inflation indicates that monetary policy is working. He also warned that CPI data for November is expected to be high.
CPI inflation is projected at 5.4% for the current year, that is 2023-24, with the third quarter at 5.6% and the fourth quarter at 5.2%.
In other decisions, RBI raised the Unified Payments Interface payment limits for hospitals and educational institutions from 1 lakh rupees to 5 lakh rupees per transaction. RBI also decided to allow reversal of liquidity facilities under both SDF and MSF even during weekends and holidays with effect from 30th of December this year. Now, this is an important announcement so far as the banks and the liquidity situation is concerned. RBI will also offer a cloud facility for banks and financial institutions that would enhance data security, privacy, scalability, and business continuity. The industry has welcomed the announcement and hailed RBI for maintaining stability.
So I think keeping repo rates unchanged for 5 consecutive periods is good because it gives stability as far as people who are borrowing. So rates not going up is a good sign.
Emphasizing on the possibility of the resurgence of inflation, RBI has for the 5th time not made any changes in its key policy rates. Also, RBI has given a clear indication that price stability is the priority. With camera person Gaurav Kagra, this is Shama Mishra for DD India, Mumbai.
And now to an update on the Israel-Hamas conflict. As Israel ramps up strikes against the Hamas, the Israeli military claims that 92 of its troops have been killed in Gaza since ground operations began on 20th October. On Friday, a funeral was held for the son of an Israeli cabinet minister who was killed in northern Gaza. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was among the dignitaries who attended the funeral of former military chief Gadi Eisenkot's son. And ending speculation, President Vladimir Putin of Russia has said that he will run for president again in the March 2024 election. In a military ceremony where he was awarding soldiers who had fought in Ukraine, Putin was asked if he would run again, to which he said yes. Now, Putin has served as president longer than any other ruler in Russia. If Putin is re-elected, he will remain in power until 2030. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Trouble mounts for US President Joe Biden as his son Hunter is charged with tax evasion. Tension mounts between Venezuela and Guyana over the oil-rich Essequibo region. And 12 Chinese fighter jets and a suspected weather balloon crossed the Taiwan Strait's sensitive median line.
What are you watching, Dad?
Don't you often say, think before investing in the stock market? So I'm trying to gain some knowledge.
From whom?
That's this stocks expert. Makes great educational videos. Gives good investment tips too.
Dad, don't rely on such videos. Do your own research or contact a SEBI-registered investment advisor. In the name of education, some influencers often misguide investors. You will have to bear the losses.
Do you know there's an investor protection fund for investors, IPF, but if your trade isn't executed on the exchange or if it's some guaranteed return scheme, then even IPF will not be able to help you.
And what if your broker becomes a defaulter? Then?
In that case, IPF can provide you with compensation.
Where did you learn this?
NSE's website.
So much good, invested.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates Global Investors Summit 2023 at Dehradun in Uttarakhand, launches the House of Himalayas brand of local products. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates the first Indian Art, Architecture and Design Biennale 2023 at Red Fort in New Delhi. And India's central bank, the RBI, keeps policy rates unchanged at 6.5%. RBI governor says real GDP growth projected at 7%. Now, trouble mounts for US President Joe Biden. His son Hunter has been indicted for tax evasion. It's the second time this year that Hunter Biden has been officially charged with a crime. He was charged with 3 crimes stemming from his purchase of a gun when, by his own admission, he was addicted to drugs. The new charges serve up more acute embarrassment for Joe Biden as he wages an uphill battle for re-election and fends off a Republican bid to impeach him on grounds that he benefited from U.S. government policies during his time as vice president to President Barack Obama.
The Department of Justice on Thursday filed new criminal charges against US President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, accusing him of failing to pay $1.4 million in taxes while spending millions of dollars on a lavish lifestyle. 53-year-old Hunter Biden was hit with 3 crimes punishable by a prison term of 1 year or more and 6 minor offenses punishable by a fine. Hunter Biden faces up to 17 years in prison if convicted. The indictment says Hunter Biden earned handsomely while serving on the boards of Burisma, a Ukrainian industrial conglomerate, and a Chinese private equity fund. Prosecutors said that between 2016 and October 2020, Hunter Biden received more than $7 million in total gross income. It included nearly $2.3 million from his position on the board of directors of Burisma between 2016 and 2019. Hunter Biden's affiliation with Burisma has been the focus of years of attacks from Republican lawmakers, who have accused him of leveraging his family name to make money overseas. Adding to Hunter Biden's income was work for China Energy Company Limited, a Chinese energy conglomerate. Hunter Biden's indictment coincides with the Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives taking a procedural step on Thursday towards voting to authorize their impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. House Republicans accuse President Biden and his family of improperly profiting from policy decisions Biden participated in as Vice President in President Barack Obama's government between 2009 and 2017. Republican Representative Kelly Armstrong introduced a 14-page resolution that would allow the full House to vote on authorizing the probe. It was not immediately clear when the resolution would be put to vote. The White House has dismissed it as baseless. Bureau Report, DD India.
And joining me is Dr. Ranjan Kumar. Dr. Kumar is with the School of International Studies at Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Dr. Kumar, welcome to DD India News Hub. Now, let me start off by asking you, do you think Biden's son Hunter's second indictment in a year comes at a bad time for President Biden? I mean, the 2024 election is just less than a year away, actually.
And thank you for having me here first.
Welcome.
This is very well timed in the sense that this has been deliberately brought by the Republican Party so that there can be a smear campaign against Biden. So it's very timely from the Republican perspective. And as you you elaborated in your program, so there are essentially three charges on which the Republican Party is trying to bring the impeachment in the House of Representatives. One is about the some kind of improper business dealing that his son Hunter Biden did with a number of companies from China, Ukraine, Russia, Romania, Kazakhstan, etc. And the charge is that that his company received approximately $20 million, and out of that, some amount of money finally went to his family bank account. So that's number one charge. The second charge against Hunter Biden is that during when Biden was Vice President, Joe Biden, so he tried to stop the investigation against an energy firm in Ukraine, Burisma, and was the name of the company, and he was the director there, one of the board of director member there. So he tried to stop that prosecution so that his son cannot be indicted in that particular case in Ukraine. And the third charge, which is more about the morality, where the Republican Party is arguing that this Justice Department is giving preferential treatment to Hunter Biden, while the same department is trying to very speedily trying to prosecute Trump, former president. So these are the three major charges. And the response of the Democratic Party is as expected. They are saying that this is a sham, this is a kind of embarrassment, this is a kind of wild goose chase,
Right.
all charges are false and it can never be obtained. There is no evidence. During the Trump administration also, the process was initiated about the Ukrainian case, a Burisma company, but nothing came out of it in the 8 months of investigation. So these are very politically motivated.
Right.
In other countries, what you see that, in the other security departments are used, but in US, you'll invariably find that a law is used to kind of indict the president or the federal officials. So,
Right.
in US, yeah, so.
Dr. Kumar, it's interesting you describe the Hunter Biden indictment as a smear campaign and a wild goose chase. So let me ask you this. Now, looking at the move by the Republicans to impeach Joe Biden, do you think it can be anything, more than a political stunt?
I think it's difficult to say. For the time being, because the investigation has not been properly conducted, and Republican Party and the media, Fox News, etc., they are coming up with some evidence.
Okay.
But they're saying that one Chinese company in a specific, and the name of the Chinese company was this Harvest Management Fund. And out of that, they're saying that there was a WhatsApp chat between Hunter Biden and that one of the company of China. And in that, he kind of threatened, saying that my father is with me. and you send the money, and immediately after that chat, $100,000 came to his account, and out of that, some amount actually went to his own bank account. So that's the claim, that's the accusation by the Republican Party. So this needs to be investigated.
Right.
But we can't really say at this moment that whether all the charges are fake or there is some evidence to it.
Right.
But the earlier investigations which have happened in the past during the Trump administration, actually no concrete evidence was shown. In fact, the impeachment which is being discussed in media today, so that is about the continuation of the inquiry. This is not actually the impeachment of Biden at this moment. That they should be allowed to conduct very legally and very formally an inquiry. So this voting that you see being discussed today, this voting is about, at this moment, is about continuation of the inquiry, not about the impeachment, which might happen later. And impeachment is also possible because this House of Representatives has the Republican majority at this point. Unless until some of the members decide to deflect, that is also possible. But that will happen probably in the future. At the moment, they're asking that they need to get the vote in the House of Representatives so that inquiry can be conducted, and the House Oversight Committee headed by James Comer, they can issue some subpoena to the Hunter Biden officials or family members who are engaged in it. So they want to use the legal authority to kind of to strengthen the argument against Joe Biden.
Right. And finally, Dr. Kumar, very quickly, if you will. As things stand now, as we speak, we have Joe Biden on the Democratic side and Donald Trump on the Republican side. What do you make of a possible Biden-Trump face-off come November 2024?
It's a very close contest. And I was looking
Why
at
do you say that?
Because there are a number of polls which have happened in the United States, a number of polls, including by media house, etc. And majority of them are saying that Trump is having a lead of roughly 2 to 4%. But there are some polls, opinion surveys, which are also giving 2% lead to Joe Biden at this moment. So at this moment, it's very close contest, very close competition between the two leaders, Joe Biden and former President Trump. So it's very difficult to say because also the final president in the United States is decided by the Electoral College and not by the opinion poll of all the numbers. So even if you have more votes, if you do not win the Electoral College of 300, you will not be the president. So it's very difficult to say at this moment. It's very close contest between the two leaders. And it would be very interesting, and that's what is happening. Both the parties are trying to use a legal instrument to kind of defame the other leader. And impeachment is very simple. If you get it passed in the House of Representatives by simple majority, 50%, you can impeach him. But he will continue until there is a 2/3 Senate inquiry and 2/3 support in the Senate. So that person, unless until that trial is successful in the Senate with 2/3 voting in the Senate, this impeachment does not have to be.
Indeed.
So So at this moment, it's very close competition. That's what I can tell.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Dr. Ranjan Kumar, thank you once again for joining us and sharing your thoughts with our viewers on DD India News Hour. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right, moving on, as tension mounts between Venezuela and Guyana over the oil-rich Essequibo region, the matter is likely to be taken up by the United Nations Security Council in the upcoming sessions. To the Indo-Pacific now, Taiwan's defense ministry said in a statement that 12 Chinese fighter jets and a suspected weather balloon had crossed the Taiwan Strait's sensitive median line. The tensions come ahead of Taiwan's 13th January presidential election. And now take a look at some other stories making news in India. Indian Railway Minister officially revealed India's inaugural bullet train terminal in a video showcasing a bullet train terminal at the Sabarmati Multimodal Transport Hub in Ahmedabad. The fancy terminal, designed with cutting-edge features, is all set to welcome passengers who want to ride on India's first bullet train. The founder of Zoram People's Movement, Lal Duhoma, took oath as the Chief Minister of the northeastern Indian state of Mizoram. The regional party defeated the Mizo National Front in the recently concluded state election. India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal spoke at the 44th annual function of Consumer Electronics and Appliances Manufacturers Association. Minister Goyal urged the industry to prioritize quality, highlighting the importance of supporting the Indian ecosystem and fostering collaboration among domestic manufacturers. During the India-US joint exercise Vajra Prahar, the Indian Air Force conducted a precise airdrop, deploying both combat troops and specialized warfighting equipment in the northeastern sector. This strategic maneuver represents another notable stride towards enhancing interoperability and strategic cooperation. And still to come on DD India News Hour. COP28 President urges countries to work together to reach an agreement on climate action. India's lawmaker Mahua Moitra expelled from the lower house of country's parliament in the cash for query row. And defending champion Argentina kicks off the 2024 edition of Copa America on 20th June in Atlanta against the playoff winner between Canada and Trinidad and Tobago.
What are you watching, Dad?
Don't you often say, think before investing in the stock market? So I'm trying to gain some knowledge.
From whom?
That's this stocks expert. Makes great educational videos. Gives good investment tips too.
Dad, don't rely on such videos. Do your own research or contact a SEBI-registered investment advisor. In the name of education, some influencers often misguide investors. You will have to bear the losses.
Do you know there's an investor protection fund for investors, IPF, but if your trade isn't executed on the exchange or if it's some guaranteed return scheme, then even IPF will not be able to help you.
And what if your broker becomes a defaulter? Then?
In that case, IPF can provide you with compensation.
Where did you learn this?
NSE's website.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. In a crucial high-level ministerial dialogue on climate finance at COP28 in Dubai, India's Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Bhupender Yadav, emphasized the need for immediate and collective action to define climate finance and address resource disparities among developed and developing nations.
Highlights is the relatively palliatory resource flow, the needs to scale up several times over through enhanced provision and mobilization by the developed countries, including through the financial mechanisms and innovative instruments that enable the mobilization of finance by the developed countries at an affordable cost. The flow of finance has to be along with access to technology such as offshore wind, battery storage. In the absence of these, it would not be possible for the developing countries to meet their commitments on the UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement.
As the COP28 summit is underway in Dubai, Sultan Al Jaber, the president of this year's summit, urged countries to step out of their comfort zone and work together to reach an agreement towards climate action. As the conference ends on 12th December, the countries are engaging in wide-ranging talks to arrive at a common agenda to tackle climate change.
I need you to step up, and I need you to come out of your comfort zones. And I kindly ask you all to be flexible and to truly and genuinely engage in our deliberations and discussions.
India's Finance Ministry and the Confederation of Indian Industry, or CII, hosted the Global Economic Policy Forum in New Delhi. Minister for Women and Child Development Smriti Irani participated in the discussion. She lauded the Modi government's landmark Indian legislation, which ensured that women occupy at least 33% of the seats in the provincial and federal assemblies. On day 5 of the Indian Parliament's winter session, lawmaker Mahua Moitra was expelled from the lower house in the cash for query matter. The Lok Sabha adopted the Ethics Committee report on Trinamool Congress MP Moitra for her expulsion. The government moved the motion following the adoption of a report by the Ethics Committee recommending her expulsion for sharing her login credentials and password with an unauthorized person, its impact on national security, and finding that it amounted to unethical conduct and contempt of the House. Mahua Moitra won the 2019 Indian election and served as a Member of Parliament from 2019 to 2023. The Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra has reached the districts of Poonch and Riyasi in the northern Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The Yatra was welcomed with tremendous enthusiasm and active participation from the local communities and Panchayati Raj institutions in Poonch district. The public displayed a strong commitment to the development and progress of the nation. The beneficiaries shared progressive stories of the benefits they got from various schemes under the Meri Kahani, Meri Zubani program. In Riyasi district, the Yatra sought to connect with the underserved population and maximize the impact of the centrally sponsored schemes. Locals attentively listened to a recorded message of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, which highlighted the significance of the campaign. The IEC vans at the center of the Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra have emerged as a dynamic tool as they continue to traverse various blocks of the districts and disseminate essential information on the central government schemes. The Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra was also organized in Gonda district of the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. During this endeavor, the general public in the rural areas was made aware about government schemes such as Kisan Samman Nidhi, Ayushman Bharat Yojana, Gharani, Ujjwala Yojana and other schemes which greatly benefit the rural population. India's Textiles Minister Piyush Goyal told the apparel export sector not to fall for predatory practices and low-quality supplies from external sources. He was addressing Apparel Export Promotion Council Excellence Honours in the national capital on Friday. Minister Goyal said that for the long-term health of the whole textile ecosystem in the country, it's necessary to build domestic supply chain capacities by supporting them.
Don't fall for predatory practices, for practices where low-cost, substandard goods start substituting domestic availability of material, kill our downstream or our upstream. Every element of the industry is important. Atmanirbhar Bharat is not about closing India's doors to the world. We want to open them wider, but not to non-transparent, opaque supplies, not to low-quality, substandard goods.
Minister Goyal said India is looking at a 10-time growth to become a $35 trillion economy by 2047. He said we look at making India the technology hub and innovation sector of the world. And the vision is very clear. The minister made the remarks while addressing FICCI's annual convention and 96th annual general meeting in New Delhi.
The vision is laid out when we look at creating India as a manufacturing base, when we look at making India the technology hub and innovation center of the world. The vision is very clear that our services sector is going to engage and grow with the best of technologies and modern thoughts across the world. We are looking at a 10x growth to become a $35 trillion economy by 2047.
The 96th annual general meeting of the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, or FICCI, was held at Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi on Friday. The event saw eminent members of financial sector of the government such as Indian Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal, Chief Economic Advisor Dr. V. Anantha Nageshwaran, Secretary of the Department of Economic Affairs Ajay Seth and others. Speaking at the event, Nageshwaran talked about the recent scenario of Indian economy in shifting times and the need for a tough optimism to handle the challenges. The San Marga Iraivan Temple is a Chola-style Hindu temple located on the Kauai Island in the state of Hawaii in the United States. The Iraivan Temple is the first all-stone white granite temple to be built in the Western Hemisphere, whose construction began in the year 1990. The Iraivan Temple is located next to the Waiua River and 8 kilometers from Mount Waialil. It's maintained by the Shaiva Siddhanta Temple. And now to news from the world of sport. The draws of the Copa America was unveiled on Thursday. Defending champion Argentina kicks off the 2024 edition on 20th June in Atlanta against the playoff winner between Canada and Trinidad and Tobago. The reigning champion Argentina and South American heavyweight Brazil are included in favorable groups, while the host, the US, will come up against 15-time winner Uruguay. More in the next report.
The path to Copa America glory has been outlined as the draw for next year's edition is unveiled in Miami. Reigning champions Argentina and South American heavyweights Brazil are included in favorable groups, while hosts the United States will come up against 15-time winners Uruguay for next year's tournament. World Cup winners Argentina kick off the tournament in Atlanta on June 20th against the playoff winner between Canada or Trinidad and Tobago. Argentina will also face Peru and Chile. CONCACAF Gold Cup winners Mexico are in Group B alongside Jamaica, Venezuela and Ecuador. The US face Bolivia and Panama in their first two Group C matches before taking on heavy hitters Uruguay. 9-time winners Brazil have been drawn in Group D with Colombia and Paraguay, as well as either Honduras or Costa Rica. 16 teams will contest for the coveted trophy. Semi-finals will be in New Jersey on July 9th, 10th, while final will take place on July 14th. Sports Desk, DD India.
A fashion show with an unusual touch was held recently in Russia's Kaliningrad. Russia's sole amber enterprise, the Kaliningrad Amber Factory, showcased its first creative workshop for Russian fashion designers with a focus on using the organic gemstone as bold addition to clothing designs for everyday wear and for those special occasions as well. 8 local designers put on show the results of spending 3 months exploring modern amber processing capabilities for clothing. The largest Christmas tree in the world was lit up in the medieval Italian town of Gubbio. As per tradition, as Christmas approaches, the entire slope of Mount Ingino has been lit up with bright lights in the shape of a Christmas tree. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website, ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.